And Merry almost Dartsmas. Welcome to Sporting Life's 2026 Paddy Power World Darts Championship preview and predictions. That's right, our panel are going to try to predict the eventual winner of the tournament on January 3rd. And the panel joining us to do so are Sky Sports presenter and darts expert Abigail Davies, former major winner and darts commentator Paul Nicholson, and Sporting Life's resident darts expert Chris Hammer. Let's get into it. This is going to work pretty straightforward. We're going to run through each quarter one by one, and you as a panel, you're all going to pick who you think will make it through, and eventually we'll pick who you think is going to win the tournament. Okay, so let's start with quarter one. Quarter one includes current champion, 6 majors this year, Luke Littler. Is it a foregone conclusion, Abigail, or has he got some stiff competition in that quarter?
I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, especially when you've got the likes of Gerwyn Price in that quarter. But look, the strength in depth in the world of darts right now, making predictions can make you look foolish. And we don't really need any help on that front, do we? So we're going to try and do that. Look, it's hard to go against Luke Littler because of what he's doing at the moment. You've just mentioned it. 6 major titles already in 2025. The youngest ever world champion, the youngest ever world #1. But it's not just the ease in which he gets over the line when he's dominating matches now. We saw it at the match play. We've seen it in other tournaments as well. It's his ability when he's trailing in matches. The way he can reel off 6, 7 legs, it is Phil Taylor-esque. And I have been reluctant for quite a while to make that comparison because you want to give it time, you wanted to let him bed in a little bit, but it is hard to ignore it now because of the manner in which he is getting the job done. It is very difficult to look past him. However, I am just about going to go for Gerwyn Price in this section because you look at the performance levels from him, 6 titles for him, none of them have come on a big TV stage in a major tournament yet, but I just feel the way he's playing in 2025, surely it has to come together in a major tournament for him. He has been producing astronomical averages, and I think even he'd be the first to admit that when he has lost in majors, the Grand Prix comes to mind, it was his undoing, if you like. You know, he squanders that 2-set lead, he then starts practicing on double 13, doesn't he? And that's one rare occasion in 2025 where maybe he's let things get on top of him slightly, but it has been, in his word, I've been bombing too many missed doubles. That's been the thing that's let him down in majors. But I just feel there's got to be a major tournament where it all comes together for him. And it would be such a Gerwyn Price thing to do, wouldn't it, when there's £1 million on the line for it to all come together in this one. So, yeah, I think Gerwyn Price I'm just about giving the edge to, but there are a number of games in that quarter that I'm really looking forward to as well. Cullen against Bradley Brooks, I think that could be an absolute belter. Rob Cross could be in a spot of danger against Cordeca. And then David Davis, really looking forward to seeing how he gets on his Ali Pali debut as well.
I'm going to go for Littler in this quarter.
Boring.
As will many people for the right reasons. Because one of the reasons that Abby's mentioned is his ability to play well at long format. And he doesn't have a bad record at Ali Pali. He's only lost once in a final. So, I mean, it is simply ridiculous what he's able to do. I mean, he's talking about having 4 days off before the championship starts. I wouldn't be surprised if he throws minimal darts just to conserve energy. He knows he's going to be playing opening night, and he knows he's going to have to be good against Darius, because Darius is very, very tricky to take care of. But even when he was in trouble last year against Ryan Meikle, he was able to put in a record set of over 140 in a set. So can he do that again? I think he probably can. There are many people who will fancy going deep in this quarter. But ultimately, I think 95% of the world will think that Littler will come through it.
Yeah, I've got to be boring as well. The thing is, you mentioned the Phil Taylor levels. He's of the major tournaments he's won, apart from the World Grand Prix, which is double start, he's averaging for the tournament over 100 in each of them. And that's what Taylor and MVG did in their heydays. And the Players' Championship finals, it was a tournament record of 105. So the longer the format goes on, he just gets stronger and stronger. You mentioned Price. I do think he'll get to the quarterfinals, but he's lost 7 times in a row now to Littler. And that'll be best of 9 sets rather than the World Grand Prix, which was at that stage, that was best of 5, wasn't it? I think when they met. So obviously, along with the format, I just can't see. I mean, Littler said himself, people will need him to have an off day. and he doesn't have many of them. And if he has an off day early, can you imagine the likes of Cullen, Heta, Rob Cross producing the standard they need to beat him in a short format? I don't think.
The only way I see Littler not coming through this quarter is if he gets the flu. Quite frankly, I remember in 2008 when we first had Ali Pali, and most people were sick. James Wade was ill. Everybody was sick, apart from John Part. And he won the tournament. So sometimes outside influences really can make a big difference. Now, I don't want anybody to get sick. I want everybody to be thriving and healthy. But if there's an outside influence that stops him, then there is potential for Littler not to get through this quarter. But if everybody's firing, he will win this quarter, in my opinion. But we haven't even mentioned Chris Dobie either. I think it's going to be Littler versus either Price or Dobie in the quarters. And that will be a game very worthy of January 1st.
It's just the format, though. When it gets that long, he's not going to come up against a good enough player when the format's short, where he could lose. You know, when James Wade beat him at the Europeans. So then by the time he gets to face the really big guns, the format's too long.
I think Gerwyn Price has a level that is as close to the two Lukes now as you're going to get.
Yeah.
It is, the only concern I've got with saying Gerwyn Price is, like I've mentioned, sometimes his concentration at the moment, I think, can be questioned. Does he switch off in those little key moments? That's the only reservation I have. But if they collide, I do think he has a high enough level. It's just whether he can sustain it.
Okay, so that brings an end to the first quarter. And to quickly summarise, your prediction is?
Gerwyn Price.
Littler.
Littler.
Okay then, on to the second quarter of the draw, Chris. And the favourite here, Stephen Bunting, he's the fourth seed, but it should be pretty wide open, shouldn't it? It's a difficult one to predict this.
Yeah, but on the surface of things, he's won 6 titles away from the majors. He's averaged 98 for the year, so he's a worthy favourite. But he's not really put it together in the majors, and he didn't have a very good Premier League campaign. And I think his sort of form's tailed off recently. It's not like he's playing the sort of darts we've seen earlier in the year. And then you've got Johnny Clayton, who's done really well in the majors this year, but his form's dipped recently, and he didn't have a very good Players' Championship finals. And then Martin Schindler, he's won a couple of Euro Tour titles, but he's never really done well in the majors. We can't get away from that, can we? He always sort of looks a little bit nervous. He hasn't just had that big run yet. So then now I'm looking all the way down to Ross Smith in the lower section of this quarter. You know, I think sometimes the Ali Pali really gets the best out of him. His 180 hitting gets the crowd going. So I know he hasn't been in great form himself, but I think it's just going to be one of those quarters where it all comes down to who's got the adrenaline at the right time, gets the crowd on their side. I can't really see anyone in there where I can pick just on form alone. So I think it's going to be experience and firepower, and that's why I'm going to go for Ross Smith.
Okay.
Open for interpretation. They are the words that were screaming at me when I looked at this section of the draw. Now, if this was being played 6 months ago, it would have been just like quarter one. Stephen Bunting, all day, every day. Mentally strong, won in this kind of format before, albeit in a different venue, and has been very strong at Ali Pali on a couple of occasions. But when someone has a somewhat tetchy Grand Slam and a poor Players' Championship, you start thinking, well, hang on a minute, this is not as bankable as you may have thought from a few months back when he was going to the World Series and being the number 1 seed there and winning on the floor and the Euro Tour, and he was just checking box everywhere he went. So at the minute there are question marks as to whether he can be stopped, and he probably can, because there are other people who are in the same boat as him. People like Johnny Clayton and Ross Smith. They've won this season, but are they timing their run to perfection? This is a huge opportunity for someone to come through this quarter. It's not Stephen Bunting guaranteed. It's not Ross Smith guaranteed. I haven't gone for either of them. I think someone is ready to go, and I don't think there's going to be many people piping for him. I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to go for Ryan Searle. I just get the feeling that if he gets a run going and he gets some confidence, he's got the right people around him. Him making the semi-finals of the World would not be a surprise, because he's already said out loud on podcasts and in interviews, if I can just get through my first game and I can get a little bit of a run going, I'm as good as anyone. I believe him. I really do.
Yeah, and his top sitting, you can't look past that either,
No.
can you? When that clicks, he is so difficult to beat. But like you said, quarter of opportunity, this one. That's the first thing I thought when I saw the draw for the first time. But Yeah, you've already mentioned it. Schindler struggles a lot of the time to replicate his Pro Tour form on the big stage. Then you got Johnny Clayton. Look, if you looked at this a few months ago, he'd made the final of the Masters, semi-final at the UK, semi-final of the match play. And then things started, didn't they? He made the last 16 in the World Series, Grand Prix semi-final. After that, things started to tail off for him on the major stage. And I think one thing that's key with him, he said it at the start of the year, the main thing he's hunting down in 2025 is getting back into the Premier League. In his words, getting into the top 4 so that he could make that kind of a foregone conclusion. And at one stage, it was looking quite likely. It was looking like everything was falling into place for the Ferret. Not so much now. There are still question marks. With my little ferrety head on, I still want to back him to come through this quarter. Dirk van Dijvenbode, we all know he's got that explosive firepower to put a run together. It's just not happening consistently enough for him at the moment. I'm just about, even though Ross Smith against Andreas Harrison really is a dirty, dirty, dirty first round tie, I think I'm going to side with Chris and say Ross Smith to come through.
Okay, so let's summarise the second quarter of the draw then. Chris, your selection was?
Ross Smith.
Paul?
I am going for Ryan Searle, but the dark horse in this quarter is Ricardo Pietreczko.
Oh, you've just thrown him in there. I haven't mentioned him yet.
Well, got to say it now, might as well, before it's too late.
And Abigail?
Ross Smith.
Okay, awesome. Okay then, on to the third quarter. And Paul, Luke Humphries, he's in this quarter, but there's a lot of tough opponents in there for him.
Yeah, I think Humphries, when he looks at his quarter, he'd rather be in quarter 2. This is pretty awful. And when you put the likes of Nyman in there and, even people before that, he's got Ted Everts, good pal of his, and it's going to be a tough one for him because he's got a lot of money to defend. There's going to be a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He will be fully prepped. Of that, there's going to be no doubt. But the thing that really gets my interest moving is that he gets through his first game. The person in the next game gets through their first game. It could be Humphries versus Paul Lim. Now, this is interesting for 2 reasons. The last time Humphries lost early in a Worlds was against Lim. That was in 2021. And it was that game that pretty much fired Humphries into what we know now. It's a really important fixture to know about. Secondly, nobody wants to play Paul Lim on that stage because the entire audience are saying, well, you can't beat a 71-year-old man, come on.
Even Luke Littler said Paul Lim was the player, as well as Beau Greaves, that he wanted to avoid, which tells its own story.
He's still winning at over 70 years of age. He's still very useful. But
he also doesn't look anywhere near 70, does he?
Must be the diet. Must be what he cooks for himself. But whatever he does, it's still a winning formula, and it's a nightmare scenario for that section. But we can't forget about the fact that Nathan Aspinall's in this section as well. He's got Lawrence Ilagan, who is a pocket firework. He's going to be a real problem. I still see Nathan coming through that game. But when you've got Humphries, you've got Nyman, and you've got Nathan Aspinall in the same section, not just the same quarter, the same section of the quarter, that is not easy. And so Humphries is going to have to focus on one game at a time here.
And when if they do meet, it's a shorter format. It's not like it's going to be best of 9 or longer when you'd think Humphries has more of a chance. He's playing danger people when that format's a little bit more risky.
And he knows a thing or two about risky early games because, let's face it, over the last couple of years, he's been in some dramas, especially the one with Cullen. What was that, on the 30th of December? It was the last game of the year, and it went to the very last leg. The last thing he needs pre-Christmas is to go through stuff like that. He wants to somewhat serenely make it through so that nearer Christmas and between Christmas and New Year, he can just go full throttle one day at a time.
But you've plucked out a few names in that quarter there, and you've said that Humphries is defending quite a lot of money. Someone who's not defending any, and honestly really gets my juices flowing, the thought of watching him up on that Ali Pali stage, Charlie Manby. I think the year he has had, wow, we could be in for some explosive darts in that match, because who's he got? Oh, just Cameron Menzies. That game genuinely could be the match of the round, because Charlie Manby, just to, if you're not as familiar with his game, he's produced record-breaking averages. He, in the World Youth Championship, missed the bull for a 130 to beat Luke Littler. He is doing incredible things. We've seen him have a little taste on the Pro Tour now as well, pushed Dirk van Dijvenbode all the way, has picked up wins against Gilding, Mansell, Cross on the floor. I think he's ready to take that step up. I'm not saying for a second he's going to come through the quarter, but I think we see him win a couple of games up on that
Do you
stage.
think he'll adapt to it like Cam Crabtree did at the Grand Slam?
I think he's going to adapt to it, and I think he's going to take it all in his stride. I think he's got that demeanour, he's got that on-stage presence already. We've seen it at the Moda Super Series, haven't we? Yeah. He's got that bit of spice about him. He's got that something special. I think he's going to take to it like a duck to water.
Yeah, I think the Moda Super Series has helped a lot of these players because playing there in front of 100 people is somewhat more difficult than playing at Alexandra Palace because those fans are right on top of you. Whereas you get on that 128-foot stage and you think, well, actually, I've got a lot of space. This is not as difficult as my mind made it out to be. So I'm with you on Manby. I think he's an awful draw for Menzies. And now we have to talk about Van Veen.
Yeah.
2-time World Youth Champion. He's beaten Greaves recently. He's European champion. Hasn't won a game at the Palace yet. But does that stop him from winning this year? I don't think it does. But he's been given Cristo Reyes, who it feels like someone dug up a Cristo Reyes fossil and said, oh, by the way, he's still alive. We haven't seen him for 5 years. And then he pops up and bang. Brilliant. Can't wait to see the Spaniard back.
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, if Luke Humphries is going to get through, it's going to be the hard way, isn't it? It's such a tough quarter. I was just going to ask you, though, Paul, do you think it's better to be facing tough players pretty early on, all the way through to win, or do you want a routine kind of path, and then accept it's going to get difficult from the quarters onwards? I think a run like that, if he ends up winning the world title this year, he'll have to go through a lot of incredibly good players.
I think you've got to accept that there are no easy draws. Maybe there is a perceived easier game, yeah, but you've got to look at someone and remind yourself of what they can do. And I can only speak from my own personal experience that when I was given a lot of really tough first-round draws, like Stuart Kellett, who was the top qualifier, like Steve Farmer, who was the top qualifier, and I thought, that's fine by me, because they're going to make me switch on.
Yeah.
And this is going to make Humphries switch on. His prep will be perfect. Yeah. I've got no doubt about that. But he knows he's going to have to go to the well more than once if he wants to make post-Christmas, post-New Year. It's as simple as that. This is not going to be easy.
I also think you worry about it less with the likes of Luke Littler and Luke Humphries because you know that they can produce that level time and time again. Yes, they might be forced to produce brilliance, but you then kind of expect them to back it up. Whereas if it's the likes of Michael van Gerwen right now, which we'll get onto, of course, in section 4, but do you expect him to back up that good performance when he then takes someone else on where he's going to need to find it again in the next round? Possibly not as much as you do with the two Lukes. So I don't worry about it as much with them.
I don't worry about his performance levels. Yeah. I think the biggest thing he's going to need to bring as world number 2 now is just a little bit of resilience, because in the past, when he's beaten the likes of Cullen and Pietreczko back to back, you think, okay, he can go to the well, but what can he do after that? He can find 108 average in a later round game. So you think, okay, each day is going to be different no matter what the challenge is. If I'm 2 sets in and I'm 2 sets to 0 down, I can get through this. If I'm 2 sets to 0 up, I'm going to get this finished. It's all about positive mental talk. And that is something he's going to have to master 100% in order to get that second world title this time round.
Well, the fighting talk's been there, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's been great.
I mean, I have to say, though, with Gian van Veen, he's beaten Humphries the last 2 times they've met, obviously, European Championship final and the Players' Championship finals. He's got a lot of confidence. His demeanour, his whole approach to the game's faultless, isn't it?
Right, I'm going to put it this way, because I've actually got Humphries and Van Veen meeting each other in the quarters.
Yeah.
So when you've got Alcaraz and you've got Sinner, you think it's on clay, you're going for Carlos. If it's on grass, you're going for Carlos. If it's an indoor hard court, you're going for Sinner. It's as simple as that. So when it comes to Van Veen against Humphries, now Van Veen's an incredible player. We all know that. You may be able to get him short format at the Players. May be able to get him leg format at the Europeans. Long format set play. I'm going for Humphries.
Yeah, I'd agree. The reason I'm going for Van Veen is because I'm still doubtful if Humphries gets there, because he's got potential banana skins in shorter format. So he could go out early, and I'd think Van Veen's got a better chance. And then, I'm going to go with Gian.
Okay, I can understand that. And it's probably something to do with the fact that Nathan Aspinall is in Luke's section. We might get Aspinall versus Humphries early. I mean, who doesn't want to see that game? That's the benefit of having so many players in the draw, and with Nathan just breaching the top 16 before the draw was made, he put himself in the slot to play Humphries in the middle part of the tournament, and it's great for the people sitting on the fence like us.
Okay, so that was the third quarter, and a difficult one to predict it seems, but let's summarise. There were a lot of names thrown around there. Abigail, your selection was?
Luke Humphries.
Paul?
Humphries too.
Chris?
Gian van Veen.
Okay. Right, the fourth quarter, and it's an exciting one. We've got Michael van Gerwen, Josh Rock, Beau Greaves in there. Abigail, where do you see this one going?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because there are a number of seeds, big names, major winners that could be in significant trouble in this section of the draw. Michael van Gerwen comes into this, and yet again, it's another major tournament where we're going, I haven't got a clue which version of Michael van Gerwen we're going to see. Michael van Gerwen probably has no idea which version of him we're going to see either. So I don't see him getting through this draw. We all know he's got a great record. He really enjoys playing at Ali Pali. But right now, I can't rely on him producing the level required frequently enough. I think he's as likely at the moment to be dominated by someone as he is to dominate someone. And I just don't think we're going to see that consistency from him. My player to come to, it was a toss-up between Josh Rock, who I think we really are on the cusp of seeing him win a big individual major. I really do think it's going to happen very soon. I backed him to win the Players' Championship finals. Didn't work out, but again, he treated us to some brilliance. But I'm just about giving the edge to Danny Noppert. No, he doesn't have a great record at Alexandra Palace. Never made it past the last 32 before, but we have never, ever seen this version of Danny Noppert. It all started for me, Baltic Sea Darts Open, he plays Mike de Decker, and his scoring power was absolutely scintillating. And since then, we've seen 180 hitting from him in major tournaments that's rivaled the likes of Luke Humphries and Luke Littler. It has been machine-like from him. We are so used to, with Danny Noppert, seeing this unwavering level of consistency, really strong finishing from him. But we're seeing a scoring power now that elevates his level to a completely different group of players, I think. He's, we have to start talking about him in contention for the Premier League. That's where we're at with Danny Noppert now, I think. And one thing that we've also often associated with Danny Noppert is he's not really had maybe the personality on stage, and he always lets his darts do the talking. I think we're seeing that develop a little bit now as well. He's given it that little bit more. We're seeing a bit more of Danny Noppert's personality come out, and I'm absolutely loving it. I think Danny Noppert comes through.
I've been a big fan of Danny's for the best part of 10 years. I think he's a tremendous player. I think he's an even better guy. He keeps himself to himself, but I don't think he's trying to actively sell himself to get in the Premier League. He's definitely in the shop window because of the way he's playing. Yeah. He's very much a James Wade style of player. He just wants to get up there and do his business. But he might be just like James Wade in the fact that December and January might not be the months where he plays his best for whatever reason, because he's never made it past the last 32. So it's a bold call from Abby to think that he's going to win the quarter. I'm not against it whatsoever.
But something's clearly clicked for him, hasn't it? What is that? How does that happen to a player?
Well, Danny's the kind of player that isn't afraid to make a few changes. Now, it's got nothing to do with how his hair miraculously came back, because he's more like a cheer pet. But I think from a confidence perspective, he's not someone who goes on social media and tells everybody what he does. He's fit, he's got clarity in his mind, and if he needs to do something to get better, he will do it, and he'll not advertise it. It's a case of, this is my small team, I'm willing to do what I think is necessary to be the best version of myself. And if you speak to him for 2 minutes in his broken English, you understand that there are two different versions of him. One is the competitor and one is the nice guy. And when the stage gets the competitor, then everybody has license to watch out. I do believe that Josh Rock is trending in the right direction to have a really deep run. I think it's very handy that he's in the other section of the draw to Luke Littler, because it seems like he's the one who's stopping him from doing the things that we think he can do. But everybody knows I'm a big fan of Japanese darts. I'm so excited to see Mitsuhiko Tatsunami. He's so much fun to watch. And he's not going to be good for Michael van Gerwen at all. So Michael's got to get ready to be uncomfortable for at least an hour with this guy, because he is a bucket full of fun.
How far do you think Beau Greaves can go? Because she's got Daryl Gurney first, which is when we were saying before the show started, she could have got anyone, and that's such a tough draw
Well, she
for both of them.
got Willie O'Connor the last time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So getting players from the island of Ireland is nothing new to her, but
There's a lot of players though in that draw she'd have been favourite to beat, lots of them, and she's now got someone where
it's a what if thing, isn't it? Because if Greaves loses to Gurney, you think, okay, I know she's going to play well, but Gurney will be favoured by many to come through that because of experience. He's a former quarter finalist. But what if she beats a fancied player? This is the thing.
Yeah.
So when Sherrock is up against Chisnell, I know Chisnell's not playing well at the minute. You think, well, if Fallon beats Chisnell, it's just more success against great players for Fallon. But what if Greaves does beat Gurney and goes on to beat someone else? The reputation balloons even more because she's beating top players, not just qualifiers.
And in-form players
I think this is a good draw for Beau.
Does it feel like now's the time that she could do it?
I think she can do whatever she wants.
Yeah, I think it's felt like that for quite some time, hasn't it? It's felt like she could go up there and, well, we've seen her push Gary Anderson and Michael van Gerwen really close at the Grand Slam. We all know, and it's been said time and time again, she's going to cause so much damage next year, but I don't think it needs to start then. I think it can start at Ali Pali.
Yeah, I've been such a big fan of the way they've drip-fed Beau to us. One step at a time. It's a great educational tool for young aspiring dart players. You don't have to go chest deep into the PDC pool from the start. You can just drip feed yourself into the system and gradually test yourself. It's been so good from Beau. I've been such an admirer of it.
Yeah, she's managed her career path expertly so far. For her, I think, well, I'd certainly put myself in the bracket. I'm guilty of being someone who just wants to see her all the time. So I get frustrated when we don't see her in things, but that's me being selfish and wanting to see her. But in terms of her own progression, her throw, you would never, ever guess, would you, what she's been through with her action and the problems she's faced. It's one of the nicest to watch.
Yeah. Imagine Greaves getting through, what kind of media furor that would create. We all know what it was like pre-pandemic with Fallon. Never seen so many staff, apart from when Littler made it all the way through to his first final. But imagine, for example, I know we've got a Colin Ridge shirt behind us.
I was just about to ask
Rids
you.
versus Greaves. Sign me up, please.
Yeah.
That is not impugning Patrick Kovac because he's going to be a major underdog against Callan. Callan versus Greaves, what a game that would be. And if it's Kovac versus Gurney, I'll be fine with that. But there are certain fixtures that really do tantalise the taste buds.
And if she got through that, it could possibly be Josh Rock, and then that'd be another sign me up for that match.
I need a knife and fork over here.
How has she responded to this sort of pressure and attention she's getting?
She's done really well because I think what she's doing is anything that comes her way, she says, speak to my team. I will take the step back. I'm a player. I will only do minimal media. I'll do whatever's necessary. I am the player. And I think she understands her skill set. I think she's so smart for someone who's been around this sport for the best part of a decade. I remember when she was sitting on the steps of the Motorpoint Arena in Cardiff, just waiting to get into the first Champions League. She was with her parents, and we thought, oh, she's a nice young lady. She can obviously play darts. 10 years later, she's the most talked about player. It's incredible. So she can do whatever she wants, and I think her approach has been unbelievable.
She is also incredibly laid back, isn't she? But there was a spell last year where things weren't coming easy for her and she was really, really struggling. Even though she was still winning almost everything in terms of women's series darts, she was finding it a little bit difficult. And I think part of that was having an identity away from darts, and darts became a little bit all too consuming.
Yeah.
So she started playing golf, and at the moment she's into pool. And I think having those things away from darts are really, really helping
Bit like
to
Gerwyn
bring
Price.
to bring out the best on the dartboard. I think they have been pivotal for her.
Yeah. This is something that pretty much every dart player can learn from, because I remember Mark Webster telling me once that he was in the Premier League, and just to get his mind off that Premier League, he took a day of plumbing work and he was under someone's sink covered in gunge. And you think, well, that's a bit grounding, isn't it? But it's an extreme example. But when you're away from the dartboard, you have to take your mind as far away from it as possible. Beau knows this in her early 20s. That's really ahead of the game. Yeah. Some players are all-consuming with their sport, and it is showing. We've seen players who are trying too hard, and they're not getting the results they deserve.
I'm still waiting to acquire that level of maturity at 33. Maybe one day.
I'm going to predict her to beat Gurney and Rids, but then lose to Josh Rock. What do you two think?
Well, Rock against Greaves. Yeah, I'd love to see that game, but I have got Rock coming through this. I think him being as far away from Littler in the draw is a good thing, and he can focus his energies on other things. Let's face it, we've got 3 women in this section of the draw. Fabulous. Products of the women's series, tremendous. Let's go with that. But at the top, you could get Peter Wright and Michael van Gerwen in round 3.
Wild.
I mean,
It's absolutely sickening.
Peter's in trouble in that game, though, isn't he? Potentially.
I think Peter's going to be okay in his game with Nolan van Leuven.
I think he comes through, but I think it could be a bit sticky.
I want to see Michael versus Peter in an earlier round. They've been in a couple of finals together. Let's see them in an earlier round. It's symptomatic of where they're at right now. So let's see it. And let's have an almost main event style match on the 27th of December.
And potentially Gary Anderson, but his form and majors is just since the Grand Slam last year.
You're going to get a lot of people piping for Gary in this tournament.
Really?
Yeah. Time's running out. He's in his mid-50s now. And there's still this race on for who can be the first 3-time Scottish world champion. Peter and Gary in the same section of the draw. I mean, if you take Michael van Gerwen, for example, in this one, there's just a stream of people that have signified his progress in his entire career. Peter and Gary are probably the 2 biggest ones. The only person who's really missing is Adrian Lewis. Yeah. And he's not even in the tournament. So, fascinating stuff. But a lot of people are going to predict that Gary's going to do well here because no one's talking about him.
But then you could say there's a reason for that. The form. I think he just runs out of legs now. I just don't think he's got that staying power, unfortunately.
Famous last words, isn't it?
Exactly. I just feel crazy that we're at a stage where we're not kind of mentioning names like Peter Wright and Gary Anderson as potential winners anymore.
Times are different.
I mean, Jermaine Wattimena could be MVG's a bit of a problem for him in that top bit of this, but I think I'm going to go with Danny Noppert to overcome Josh Rock at some point in this the lower section. He'll play MVG and Danny Noppert progresses for the reasons we've already mentioned. The scoring powers there, the temperament, the big stage wins, getting to semi-finals on a regular basis. He's just got it all there and he believes. So
my last 16 in this one is going to be Jermaine Wattimena against Anderson. They've had a belter at the Worlds before. I think they'll play again. Rock against Noppert. I think this section of the draw in the last 16, I think they're going to steal the show.
Yeah, I'm going for the freeze to get through.
Let's clear it up for the viewer before we move on to discuss our finalists and the eventual winner. 4th quarter, your selection is
the freeze, Danny Noppert.
Paul,
the somewhat aptly named Rocky, Josh Rock,
and Chris,
Danny Noppert.
Right then, guys, we've got our semi-finalists. Paul, let's start with you. How do you see it playing out?
I've got Littler playing against Searle in the top half of the draw. As much as I would love to see Ryan Searle getting through to a first World Championship final, I just believe that Littler's on course for a 3rd consecutive final. And in the other half, Humphries against Rock, I can envisage them having an all-timer, a bit like Cross versus Van Gerwen from 2018. I just want to see another game like that, quite frankly, where everybody misses their tube after. So that's the semi-finals for me. I think it's going to be Littler against Humphries, as boring as that sounds.
Chris?
So my first semi-final is Littler versus Ross Smith. There'll be a lot of 180s, but Littler will romp through pretty comfortably. Then in the bottom half, we've got Gian van Veen against Danny Noppert. That's a tough one, but I'm going to go with Danny Noppert to probably secure his Premier League spot as well by getting through to the final.
Okay, so I've got Gerwyn Price taking on Ross Smith. I think it's going to be quite a dominant display in this one from the Iceman. I think he gets over the line quite convincingly. I think there'll be a lot of maximums hit, though. And then I think in the final, he's going to be taking on Luke Humphries, who takes care of Danny Noppert.
Right, time to discuss the finalists and the eventual winner. Chris, let's start with you. Who do you think is going to win?
Well, if it miraculously plays out as I've predicted, it'd be Littler v Noppert, and I'll go Littler 7-3.
Okay, Paul, who's likely to lift the trophy?
I'm going to go for Littler to win the tournament, beating Humphries in the final. Littler's already mentioned in the lead up to this tournament that the last person to go back-to-back was Gary Anderson. And he said that unprompted. He knows that he wants to be back-to-back. And he'll want to go even further after that and get 3 in a row. So I think, as someone who doesn't necessarily believe in destiny, I think you make your own. But after all he's done for this sport, alongside Humphries for that matter, I think it might be destiny that Littler is the first £1 million man.
Okay, and Abigail.
Gerwyn Price just about edges it out,
Right.
7-6, but I think that could be an all-timer. I think they're going to be going toe-to-toe, blow for blow. I think it could be an epic final.
Okay, well that brings an end to our preview of the 2026 Paddy Power World Darts Championship. Throughout the tournament, make sure you head to sportinglife.com/darts for lots of insight from Chris Hammer and the team here at Sporting Life. And you can find Sporting Life Darts across all social media channels. Just search Sporting Life Darts. Have a merry Dartmas.